the years later to go to, I've been to the penitentiary. I was the first minor in the state of California. They sent me to prison at 16 years old. I was in Soledad State Penitentiary. So to go through all that, survive all these gang wars, all these attempts on my life.
When you in Soledad, what they do? Did they talk to you about what's the nigga was in Soledad?
Bro,
Soledad brothers. What was that guy named?
Keep it real.
George Jackson. Did they talk about that nigga name?
Everybody. Listen, I'm going to keep it real. Anybody who been to Soledad when it was Soledad back in those days, late 80s, early 90s, right? I don't give a fuck how tough you are. And at this point, I thought I was invincible. Listen, when the judge said, because I was a minor, they said, well, CYA won't accept you. I don't know what to do with you. If I give you a 10-year reduction from 17 years to 7 years, will you sign waiver papers so I can send you to state prison, to a men's facility? I hurried up and signed them. I didn't give a fuck. Frenchie, that's that picture I post up on Instagram. So I felt like I was ready for it. Let me tell you something. When you pull up in them Soledad gates, and this Wack 100 telling you this shit, and you see them gun towers, them old prison guards with a billy club, they ain't even black. The motherfuckers is chrome, right? Every gangster thug says, what the fuck did I just get myself into? Then you go on the intake, and you got like 4 or 5 tiers of these little windows, everybody looking at you. Now it's time to hit the yard. And when I tell you up there, you got the Norteños, which get into it with the Sureños. You got the Bay Area card, which clicks with the Bloods. You got the Crip card. You got the San Diego card. Then you got the Paisas, which we call the Mexicans from Mexico who don't really speak English. Then you got the Woods. The white boys call themselves Woods in there.
The Pecker Woods.
Then you got the NLRs outside of the Woods, the Nazi lowriders. Then you got the BGF. You got the Vanguards. Then you got the Muslims. Then you got the Christians. Then you got the homosexual community. And everybody's
capable of killing you.
Everybody. It's what the fuck you dealing
Everybody's
with.
capable of killing you.
But in that prison is where I can honestly say I stopped gang banging, meaning I stopped hating the Crip. Because something happened to me in that prison that made me wake up. It was a war going on between the blacks and Hispanics. And, we was all to come out to the yard, and all the blacks was together against the Hispanics. At this time, the Sureños, the Southside Hispanics, had united. They wasn't beefing with each other no more. They called the shot that we all come together, and our mission is to get rid of everything black. So we were still going at each other, Crips and Bloods, while they all came together. So they already outnumbered us 3-4 to 1, right? So I was working in the kitchen at the time, and I remember when they had a bread rack, thin rods. So I broke down the rods, like 13, 14 rods, and I snuck them back and I passed them out, right? All Bloods. So we come out to the yard, we doing our thing. Some people go to the hole, some people make it back to the yard, right? So maybe 2-3 days later, after this situation, they come to my cell and say, Jones, roll it up. Before that, on the yard, it's a dude named Three Finger Louie from Harlem Crip who called my name. It was a Mexican dude had me from my blind side, probably was going to take my life. So Three Finger Louie saved my life during the war. So let's establish that. 2 days later, I make it back to the cell. They said, we got to roll it up. I said, for what reason? They said, well, we heard you provided weapons for the war. So I'm thinking to myself, who's my enemy? Crip that saved my life, or one of these Bloods that told on me, because they the only ones I gave knives to. So from that day forward, I never asked nobody where they was from. If I see you, I approach you as a man, as a black man. If you wanted to gangbang, fuck it, I was real versed at that. We could do that. But I started to see life different, you know what I mean? And that was one of the major changes. Frenchie's been around me. He knows my politics. I can be by myself with 10 of my Crip partners, and you would never know it. Because the only reason why we're from where we're from, because our mother or our grandmother, our father raised us over there. Nobody took a test to say, okay, because of your test results, you from Hoover, or you from Compton, or you from Watts, or you a Crip, or you a Blood, or you a Piru. It's just that's what we was raised up as, and gangs really was formed to protect the black communities, and then it just went to where it went to.
It's been that way. It's been that way since the beginning of tribals.
Yeah.
It's just gangs been in. It's just been that way since
back
the
to the
beginning
Zulu
of life.
Nation.
No, back to the beginning of time.
Yeah.
The first crew, the first people that came together, prehistoric.
To help each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always been that. But I'm happy to survive it. I'm happy to be here to teach the people coming up under me, you know what I mean, something different than the hatred I grew up on. Because a lot of these kids is gang banging, and they don't even know why they dislike the people across the street. They just know the people said don't like them. You know, a lot of these wars start over bullshit, a pair of shoes, a jacket, you know, a female, some shit that had really nothing to do with the streets, but because the dude it happened with hadn't been the dude calling the shots, that's just where it went. You know what I mean? This word politics is defined as something totally different when you in the ghetto, Mike. You know that. It's like this principle thing. It's people in jail right now because they killed the motherfucker over $5 dice game because of the principle that you did that to me. And people was watching. You know what I mean? It's really an act of craziness, but we just won't say that.
But it's been like again, I'm talking about gangs. Black gangs and most Latino gangs, there's been the only gangs that have been caught in that vicious cycle where they can never get out of the gangs. Most of it, when you see the Irish gangs, these guys have been killers. They had been in gangs when they were 10, 13 years old. They came up from the ghetto, and then they went to school. They made it. Somebody mentored them eventually. They got all these marks off their record. Now they're the governor. They're the mayor.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They're the president.